And that right there is a Flyers season. This edition of, I would call it a post-game, but it's really a post-season. And even more accurately, gentlemen, it's a post-mortem when it comes to this Flyers season, unfortunately. From the Nasty Knuckles podcast, you know him, you love him. We got Nasty, we got Knuckles, we got Derek Settlemyre, of course, and former Flyer Riley Cote. We also have Hunter Brody, Sports Talk with Brodes, Coffee with Brodes, all that and more. Brodes does just about everything with Brodes Media. And my name is Marc Farzetta from the Farzy Show. Welcome in. Like I said, a post-mortem is more or less what it feels like, fellas, when it comes to wrapping up this Flyers season as they end a very disappointing season at 25, 23, and 8 on the year. Fellas, are you relieved that it's over at this point and ready to move on to the offseason to see what kind of moves actually happen with this hockey club?
Who wants to take it?
I purposely didn't assign it.
Brodes was coming in hard, man.
Yeah, Brodes is feeling it. You take
Brodes, go for it. Go
ahead, Brodes.
It's a mixture here. It's a combination. I felt like it's been dragging on forever, and it's just been a disaster to the point where I've been checking out. So, at the same time, I put my feet up just to, soak it all in, and it's like, damn, the playoffs are coming, and this team's not going to be involved. So it was a little bit of relief that I don't have to watch that D zone ever again, ever again. At the same time, I'm disappointed because I saw this team battle in the playoffs last year, and now it's just going to be me watching other teams. So it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I'm just definitely disappointed in the way the season ended. Kind of glad that it's over. It was like a bad car wreck towards the end of the season here, getting to the playoffs. But I think Nasty and I, every episode we talked about, they're gonna get better. They're just gonna get through a little bump in the road, and the bump's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it was just a disaster. So they just need to regroup, and we just look forward to seeing what they come back with next year.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I am disappointed for the guys. Talking to a lot of them, it sucks, man. It sucks when you're 10 games left in a season, basically, and you're not making it. Those games are tough to play, Riles. We had that for 1 year. I mean, it's not fun. I do feel bad for them, but it's kind of. I've never said I'm glad the season's over, but I think for them, I am. Because it has been. It's just been one thing after another, really. So
stop the bleeding.
Yeah. Exactly.
It was definitely a point. And when we've talked before, when we've done a couple other post games throughout the season, fellas, we always talked about that one moment that maybe this is the moment that things turn around. I remember there were a bunch of those moments. Claude Giroux got hot at one point. Then it looked like Sean Couturier looked great again. And then you also saw a guy like Sam Morin try to come in and almost save the season. Maybe that was the moment things were going to turn around. But when was it? When was the moment that you guys knew that this season wasn't going to be what we had expected? Because I was expecting a solid year. I was expecting a very good year from this Flyers team. Then the defense never figured it out. Carter Hart had his struggles this year. The offense wasn't as consistent as we expected it to be. The moment that you guys realized that it wasn't going to be the season that we had expected to be, can you boil it down? Riley, I'll start with you. Can you boil it down to one moment that you thought, all right, this isn't going to be our year?
Well, it seemed to be right after those couple of games were canceled because of COVID, when right before that outdoor game, it seemed to be the turning point. And going into that stretch, they won some games they probably shouldn't have, lost some games they probably should have won, but they were still finding ways to win. There still seemed to be hope. Nasty and I were talking about all the time, so there's some upside, and then it just seemed like after that it was just like bomb after bomb after bomb, and it just seemed to get worse and worse and worse. So I don't know if that's the exact moment, but it was right in and around that time when they lost a few bodies for COVID there.
Mm-hmm. I got worried, really worried, when we were going into the third period down 9-0, and there was still 20 minutes to play. and honestly, those kind of games do happen to teams. I mean, that's a lot of goals to give up, but the third period, showing the bench and just seeing, I know the guys care, but I felt like watching the bench and seeing the guys' reactions and just the way the rest of the game went, I'm like, something's going on, or it's just something's not right, and that's when I felt like it turned, although they did win the next game.
Yeah.
Which you didn't expect them to after that, but then it just, like Riley said, it fell back off again. You get a big win coming off a horrible loss. And then you know,
I think it was another bomb after that.
It was a bomb after that one. Yeah. So I was a little worried then.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think the COVID situation is definitely one of the spots in the schedule that you look at. But for me, it's like when a season begins, I try and find a team's identity and try and hold on to that. And then it's like, okay, this is what they do well, this is what they do poorly, and I just try and search for who they're going to be, what we can rely on. And after games 18, 19, 20, and the D zone was just a mess. And with all due respect to a journeyman like Nate Prosser, once that starts becoming well, you got to put Nate Prosser in the lineup because this guy's not working that. And it's like, all right, once we're 25 games in and we're begging for Nate Prosser, there's sort of a problem there. And that's where it kind of went the other way for me, where look, I respect it. And journeyman trying to find his way, by all means, I would do the same thing if I was him. But just looking at it from a pure fan standpoint, that's when you kind of know you are really searching for a lot of options that you just don't have. So I realized like 17, 18, 19, because the seasons were only 56 long. Yeah. It's not 82. So 20 out of 56, you're basically almost halfway there. So that's where I kind of realized we're doomed.
Yeah, Riley, to go to the points that all you really mentioned. I mean, Riley, you talk about the COVID situation with the Flyers, and yeah, they never seemed like they bounced back from that. Derek, you mentioned the instance where they lose 9-0. The moment for me that I noticed this team didn't have it, that I was drastically wrong, and I had great expectations for this team going into the season, was actually the game that they won, the follow-up game against the New York Islanders after they lost 9-0. Because remember, they were up in that game, I believe it was 3-0, and then they collapsed in that game, and they barely eked it out. And one of those things where I know people always talk about how there's no moral law or there's no moral victories. That game felt like a moral loss. Like you didn't lose, but you felt like you lost because you still surrendered the 3 goals late in that game. So it wasn't a feeling of, oh, they righted the ship, they're back, they can get to the spot that you thought they were going to be at the beginning of the season. But for me, it felt more like, oh, thank God they didn't lose. And then they just proceeded to barely be able to put 2 wins together for the rest of the year. And the 9-0 loss happened on March 17th. And from that point on, it really didn't feel like this team was going to get back on track, unfortunately. So why didn't they? I mean, we've talked about defense. We've talked about the goaltending situation. We've talked about coaching throughout the year with Alain Vigneault. Why do you think, and Brodes, I'll start with you here, why do you think this team wasn't able to put it together as the season went on?
I don't think you could just point at one problem. I really do think it was like just a bunch of issues that all happened. AV, we loved him last year. He pushed all the right buttons. I think this year was the complete opposite, where he didn't not push the right buttons. And with hockey, it's like these coaches are just going in one big circle, 3 years here, 2 years here, 3 years here, because they have this powerful, aggressive voice. And I'm not saying it's over here in Philadelphia for a guy like AV, but I just wonder, was there a difference in his approach going from last year to this year? And I don't think he did the best job, obviously. Special teams, garbage. That's going to put you in a really tough spot. So the assistant coaches had less of an impact as well. And just the confidence level at one point got shot. The production from Travis Konecny and the production from those young guys that you put a lot of stock into, not really there this season. I thought Kevin Hayes, maybe he overachieved last year with AB and the expectations went really up. And I love him. I think he plays a lot of different areas on the ice, PK, shorthanded goals. That wasn't there. So it was just so many things. Carter Hart, not as strong. The D zone. I think there's like 7 reasons that if you just add up together, that's where we are.
Yeah. Nasty. How about you, man? Can you think of one thing that the reason they couldn't turn it around?
I agree with Brodes on all those points. When you like TK had a tough year, like you're looking for him to get points, right, and get goals, and started off hot in the first week, but things didn't seem to go his way, and then the turnovers. I mean, they weren't just turnovers either; they were turnovers to Panarin in the slot, Ovechkin in his spot. It's tough for any goalie. I'm not giving them excuses. They both, had games where they would tell you they didn't play well. But it never helps when you're turning the puck over so much. And I mean, it was always just in crucial times and in crucial areas on the ice, in my opinion. So that's one of the main things that Riles and I talked about it, like just the turnovers for no reason, almost like panic set in. That's what I thought. But Brodes is right. There's so many things that you could say it has to do with. So
yeah, for me, there were several guys underachieved, but I think just the core leadership group was just non-existent. I think you got a handful of guys there. I really do think G is a good leader, but I think he needs a stronger supporting cast. Like, you look at the teams that have won championships in the last 5-10 years, and you look at their core group of veterans, it's significant. You go down the list, there's like 7, 8, 9 core guys that contribute and are consistent. To me, besides Coots, G, Brian Elliott's a veteran guy. I think Voracek underachieved for a veteran guy. But then, outside of that, you got Provy, who's still a young guy, and he's in the leadership group. And there's not enough of those guys. I think you got to have supporting cast. Otherwise, you have a group of young guys. In this case, it's the young guys underachieved. You got Nolan Patrick is coming back from a bad injury. Oscar Lindblom, you got to give these guys a free pass, I guess. But but there was just no other, no other beef anywhere else throughout the lineup. So I think it's just the core leadership group was lacking.
Yeah, you guys, this was new to me. You guys are obviously far more hockey guys than I am, but when I heard Peter Laviolette say this years ago, it just made sense. And it's one of those things, whenever I see bad turnovers, it's immediately what jumped to my mind. And Nasty, you touched on it when it came to those turnovers. And Lavi said, passing our problems onto someone else. And that, to me, like, there were so many times throughout this season where it felt like instead of making a play, a calm play to try to set something up, all Flyer was doing, whoever that was, mostly along the boards when you saw those bad turnovers or not fighting hard enough for the puck. Most of those plays felt to me not trying to set up a teammate to put them in the best possible position to have success, but more so just panicked and passing your problem onto somebody else. Nasty, when you talk about those turnovers, is that kind of what you saw as well?
I think sometimes when panic sets in, that's what happens. Like, you do just kind of get rid of it. But I felt like that happened, and just turnovers sometimes. Like I said, guys got time, and maybe he doesn't know it. It could be guys not talking. Big thing in hockey is, Brodes, Riles, obviously, is talking. Time. All these little things that actually mean a lot. And obviously I'm not there. I don't know what, usually on the bench, you could hear most of that kind of stuff and guys are talking, but it just seemed like guys are a little out of sorts, especially on the D. And they switched the pairings up every game. It felt like, so I just wonder if they weren't able to get, like, Provy played with every player on the team this year, and they all did, so, I can't point out exactly what it may have been, but it just seemed like a little bit of panic, maybe.
Yeah, and that's the frustrating thing for me, too, is like watching guys like Sanheim and Myers, and they've been so great in the past, and they're young, growing defensemen that it's going to take time, but you expect them to take a leap from how they played last year to this year. And like you said, it's like you have all the time and space. So, as a stay-at-home defenseman, all I used to look for is just the winger on the wall. Let's go tape to tape, and let's get the outlet going through the neutral zone. And instead, they're looking to maybe hit the center swinging, but instead of putting it on his tape, it's 3 inches behind him, and it's going right in the middle of the slot. It's like pizza deliveries up the middle. It's like all these easy passes that you should be able to make blindfolded. They're not even looking in that area, and they're trying to make the harder play almost. So I don't know how you fix that or why that even happened, because it's so bizarre. It's the simple play. And maybe that has to do with, because I know Travis Konecny got sacked for this 5-on-5 in the D zone. These wingers could be up waiting for that cherry picking type of pass, so the defenseman doesn't even have that outlet. And then maybe there's a lot that goes into something like that for sure.
Right, Riley, you and I talked about when Sammy Moran got inserted into the lineup, not just the fighting, but he just played a simple game. Those games he played in, and he didn't make mistakes because he just played simple, like you're saying, Brodes. Sometimes you're trying to make the cute play. When things are going bad, that's not the play. It's easy, obviously, for us to sit here and say that, but it's the truth. It's the truth of the matter.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, like, if you just look at the teams that are in playoff spots, like, they're just better. They're just better teams. You know what I mean? If you go down the lineup and you just look at the consistency in the guys, like, they just execute on a higher level. Like, there was a play tonight, even with the Kubel. Like, again, you talk about just freebies. Like, they're just like kind of just brain fart plays, and they happen way too often. And where you say they happen to rookies or younger players, it just seems to, I don't know if I necessarily would say that all the time, but it's just like again, maybe that lack of leadership, that lack of communication that comes with leadership. I'm not exactly sure, but a lot of brain farts. It's just like useless plays that just like good teams don't do, and if you're going to make those plays, you're never going to make playoffs. You're never going to make a run for it.
Is there a hockey drill to rid yourself of the brain farts? Is there a way to get rid of the brain farts in hockey?
If there was, I'd probably still be playing.
Increase skill.
Brodes, I would sign Bros Farzy tomorrow if I was a GM, just for him in the locker room and warm up. This guy would be on the red line. He wouldn't be doing drills. I'm coming, boys, barking at him and everything. That's what
there's a role for that.
Yeah,
right.
There's a role for that.
I heard Brodes mention pizza delivery. I'm like, that's what I can do for you in hockey. I'll deliver the
All
pizzas
day.
as long as that's literal. All right, whatever. So let's talk about these two things, because these two things are getting talked about a lot in the very hardcore hockey circles and all that, and then in the very casual fan as well. Defense and Carter Hart. What is the bigger concern going forward for this Flyers team? What are you most worried about of those two things? Carter Hart and the Flyers defense overall. Bro, let's start with you on this one here. Are you more concerned about the Flyers netminder going forward, or more concerned about how the Flyers are going to fix this defense?
I think Carter Hart's fine. I really do. I think he had a hiccup of a season, but I always go back to when we talk about Carter Hart over the last handful of years, he's only 20. He's so young. And there's a reason why we said that, because 20-year-old netminders don't walk into the NHL and dominate. I think there was some lack of the high glove. He started to get beat glove side, and that's what guys do. They study you, they figure you out, and they realize that he had a weakness there, and he's going to have to eventually counter that. I think he lost a lot of confidence, but as we alluded to, when the defense is just turning the pucks over and it's a 2-on-1, 5 feet in front of the crease, and you have no time and space to really react, I mean, you're screwed. You're letting him out to dry, really. And that happened way more than the issues that Carter Hart had individually, which was there. But if you look at it, I'm blaming the defense for probably like 85% of them, 15% on Carter Hart. So I know a lot about what it takes to be able to play in this league from a goalie perspective. And when you look at him and look at all the other studs in this league, he has the it factor. So I think if you clean up what's in front of him, he'll be just fine. But I think also we never had a goalie here in this city in quite some time. So because that is the narrative of we need a goalie, when you see this, the natural fan reaction is maybe Carter Hart's not the guy, but that's too black and white. That's too this or that. I mean, there's so much context involved in it.
Mm-hmm. Riles, how about you, man? Do you think it's Carter Hart? Or do you think it's the Flyers defense is the bigger problem?
Definitely the defense, yeah, and even you can sprinkle in maybe some help from the forwards, maybe back checking or sometimes over back checking, just not helping out the defense. But yeah, I mean Carter Hart could improve his game. Yeah, did he have like a little bit of a blimp in his career? Yeah, but I'm not concerned about him at all. I mean he's got his head screwed on right. This kid's a pro. Maybe he's a victim of the environment this year a little bit, but they got to upgrade the defenseman, help out this young guy, and he'll be fine. But certainly some holes in the back end, and again, it's a 5-man unit. You can't put all the blame on the defense either. I think there's several times I can think of the forwards contributed to a lot of these offensive chances going the other way. So he'll be fine. I think the Flyers got to beef up back there.
Nasty D or between the pipes?
I'm more worried about the team defense from this year. Carter, he'll tell you right to your face, I wasn't very good. He said it I had dinner with him the other night, and he's like, yeah, I was awful this year. I'm like, you weren't awful. Like, listen, but he's hard. He expects himself to be up here, and I know he'll get back there. Even the last few games he did get into play. He played really well. The last game against Pitt, they won, I think, the shootout, but he tweaked his knee that game. I'm more worried about the defense in front of him. And like Riley said, sprinkle in a little bit of the forwards, because you got to protect home base. You don't have to play a trap or anything, but you got to be better all around. So I'm not worried about Carter at all, and hopefully these young guys on D, bounce back and have a better year next year. And who knows what they're going to do? What the management's going to do? Maybe make some changes.
Yeah. Speaking of which, and by the way, so I'm not skirting the question that I even asked, but yeah, I'm with you guys. More worried, 1,000 times more worried about the defense on the Flyers than I am Carter Hart. I think Carter Hart will be just fine as an NHL goaltender. I don't have a lot of doubt in my mind about that. But when it does come to the moves this offseason, I know a lot of people watching right now as we offer this I don't even want to call it postseason because the Flyers aren't in the postseason, but we're at least talking about them after the season now. When trying to break it down and look forward to what's going to happen in this offseason, to put it that way, what do you expect Chuck Fletcher to do this offseason to make the Flyers a better hockey team going into next year? What's the one thing, if you had to make a prediction, that we'll see this offseason? What do you think it'll be, Nasty?
I would say, obviously, I think there's going to be a couple people left unprotected for one. And if they get picked up, that clears a lot of salary. And I think you're definitely going to find them looking for a D-man, like to join the core, maybe two, who knows? But I think that's the biggest thing. But you never know. Like, I don't know if everyone's happy. Maybe some guys don't want to be here. I don't think that. I'm just saying, like, it'll be interesting to see with this draft, the expansion draft, what happens and who's left unprotected.
Release the Kraken, I believe is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Release the Kraken, yeah. Or I guess in this case, it would be released to the Kraken, I think is how that would work. Brodes, how about you, man?
Well, the conversation is we got to shake up the core. That's what we constantly hear is shake up the core. And I just don't think it's going to be Giroux. Plus, he has the no trade clause and all. And it would be silly for it to be Couturier, in my opinion, just based off of his age and all that. So to me, it leaves two guys core-wise. And it's JVR and Voracek. And I just wonder, as if I was GM, if I'm Chuck Fletcher, I'm calling Seattle and saying, what will it take for you to take Voracek? I know Ghost is a name that's because after that, the waiver wire, he actually, all around, when I watch him play, I'm like, all right, I did not expect him to even get to that level that he gave us in general. So I know that that's a name in theory that was thrown out there, maybe for Seattle, but just in general, if I'm Chuck Fletcher, it's what will it take for you to take Voracek? Because I think that's the name that would provide the biggest shakeup of the core that I think is needed. So that's the way I would lean with it. And like JVR, I don't look at him as part of the core, but when you look at his age and how much money is tied to his contract, but to me, like if JVR left, would that be enough of shaking up the core? I just don't think it would. I think realistically, it is Jake Voracek by default.
Riley, just to reset the question for you, what are you expecting Chuck Fletcher to do in this offseason to make this team better for next year?
Yeah, definitely adding a veteran defenseman. I think they're not that easy to come by, at least a really, truly valuable one, but I think they're going to do their best to find the best available guy. I do agree with Brodes. I think Voracek is the guy. I love him to death, but I think it's time for him. I think it's time for him to move on and get a fresh start somewhere else and open up some space for a fresh veteran body. I think you obviously got to replace him. I failed to mention JVR earlier in the core group discussion, and in like Brodes said, I think this year he really did do a good job, and he's just kind of a quiet leader. He kind of just like he just quietly does his job, not overly flashy, but I think he returns. But between a veteran defenseman, a good one, that's the key. And probably a veteran forward, whoever's available. Again, I don't know exactly who's available, but you got to beef up both spots. I think goaltending. I don't know what Elliott's status is, but I would think that they could probably easily come back with that same goaltending combo and be totally fine. I think it's you just got to add some veteran presence, a good veteran guy to add to G and Coots and Provy. Provy's a young leader that's developing, and he could really use some help back there too. So.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I agree with everything you guys were saying about this offseason. We'll get into some of the guys that you see might be moving on in terms of just going elsewhere, whether that be to Seattle and the new expansion team or that just be elsewhere in the NHL. But let me ask you guys this question real quick. I don't expect this to happen, and I'm certainly not rooting for this to happen, but I know it's a question that a lot of people are trying to get into right now as far as what can happen in the not-too-distant future with Claude Giroux. We always mention the no trade clause or the no movement clause in the NHL. What do you think it would take, and do you think Claude Giroux, and this isn't reporting, this is just our own feeling here, do you think Claude Giroux is in a place where he would be willing to move that no trade or no movement clause to move to a contender at some point in the not-too-distant future?
That's interesting. My gut tells me that I think he hears the noise of like strip the C. He's not a good leader. I think he would want to look at his numbers. I mean, he just keeps climbing the Philadelphia Flyers leaderboards, games played. He's going to have 1,000 points, 1,000 games by the end of his career, and he just seems like he would be the guy to want to hoist the Stanley Cup and almost say like, "Fuck you,
yeah,
fuck you."
Exactly.
kissing that cup in front of everyone, flip everyone off. So, like, I don't know. My gut feeling tells me, like, he wants to do it so bad. And I think his play this year, as poor as it's been for everybody in this team in general, I think Claude had one of his best seasons in terms of just like not giving up. Like he was like giving everything out there. Sometimes led you to some, and I know Riley, you were talking about like leadership in general, and I'm with you there. But when you watched him play, he willed you to a lot of wins this year that I don't think you would have gotten without that. I think there's an edge in him, a fire in him that would want to do it here. So I don't know if he had an opportunity to go. I'm just like hypothetically saying, like,
right.
Vegas, go to Maple Leafs. I don't know. Maybe I'm not ruling out the fact to go win a cup, but I do think he has more of a fire in him to kind of want to do it here.
Riley, any chance Claude Giroux would move that no movement clause, wipe it away?
You know, that's a really good question. I agree with Brodes. Like, and I know G. Like, I just feel like G's heart's in Philly, man. Like you said, like he's a competitor. His game hasn't dropped off. Like he is a high level competitor and elite player. And I don't know how you replace him necessarily. You know, just to get rid of him, just to keep the boo birds away. I mean, I think people gotta really sit back and look at what he does on a nightly basis. I think building around him, you know what I mean? Adding a couple of different complementary players, like this guy passes. You know, like the best of them in the NHL. Like find a couple guys that could finish, put them on the line with them. I don't know, like to move them. I mean, again, I just know G. I feel like he would exactly what Brode said. Stay in Philly and do his darndest to win a Stanley Cup here and shove it up everyone's ass. Honestly, but I think you know, like he's a good enough passer. Find a couple snipers. I don't know, like
yeah, man.
But like to move them. And then what are you going to get in return? You know, it's obviously going to free up, a bunch of money, but like, do you get that type of point production in return? No, but you're going to have to patch it up somewhere else. And then it's hope, you know what you're going to get out of G, you know, he's durable.
Well, let's just say when his contract ends, could you see the Flyers maybe keeping him on a lower deal as a veteran guy that's not the $8 to $9 mil hit that it is now? And it's just like maybe he's a winger now and he's not a center, even though he's still great at faceoffs. And like I'm so fascinated with let's say the contract runs its course and the no trade clause plays out, whatever, and he's just here until the end of the contract, which is very short time until it's over. Does he come back on a short-term deal where it's like 2 years, $5 million just to stay in Philadelphia as the captain or something?
Yeah. I feel like Riley, I feel like he wants to, and you Brodes, he wants to shove it up everyone's ass. This guy is so competitive, and Riley can tell you, I mean, Brodes, if he was sitting there with you, he would say, hey, you want to arm wrestle? Like the fucking guy is like seriously so competitive. And it makes me laugh when people are like, get rid of him. I'm like, be careful. Who's going to replace what he does? A lot of people don't understand the little things he does. That little play he made tonight with the foot, the pass, like it's one thing tonight, but there's not many people that can do things like that. And he just does so many little things. Riley played with him. He can tell you, he does things when you're on the bench and guys are like hitting each other going, holy shit. Like, did you see what he just did? And people in the stands don't even know what he did. You know, it could be a 90-mile-an-hour pass behind him by a foot, and he reaches back with his left foot, takes it off his toque in stride, and people don't even know that it was a bad pass. You know, and I know there's guys that can do it, and it's expected at that level, but I think he takes way too much shit, to be honest with you, and people don't understand what kind of player you have with him.
Yeah, I personally don't think he would waive that no trade clause. I think he is very much determined to win and get to at least an Eastern Conference final in the end here in Philadelphia, and then maybe go on after next year to some other team that might be looking for a little bit more veteran leadership. It might be looking for somebody that can be that guy to do a little bit of everything, as Nasty you were saying, and that's kind of what he brings to the table. And for those people that might look at other sports in this city, I think a great comparison between Claude Giroux and maybe somebody else in this city, a very popular name in another sport. I look at them as a very Chase Utley type of player, where he does a lot of the little things that maybe you don't notice every time, and he's giving it his 100% every single night. And the one player that even Alain Vigneault mentioned throughout the year as the guy that was still trying to lead by example, the guy that was still early to the ice and everything like that for practice, and the rare occasion they had practices this year, it was always Claude Giroux. Even after that 9-0 loss to the Rangers, or even after COVID when he had his own personal dealings with that, he was still the guy that was always showing up, always giving it the 100%, and always making sure that his team was trying to emulate what he was bringing to the ice every single night. I know what the Flyers would miss if they didn't have Claude Giroux on this team. And something that I think flies under the radar so much is, other than COVID, this guy doesn't miss games.
Yeah.
He's there every
that's
single
true.
night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always go back to. I was just going to say real quick, when Joel Farabee was on the bench once, it was a play by Voracek and Giroux, and they were speaking. Maybe Couturier was in there too, and they had a setup play in the offensive zone off the right draw, and they executed it within 3 seconds off the draw, scored. And Joel Farabee was sitting on the bench like, I just heard them talk about what they were going to do, and it was in the back of the net within 3 seconds off the faceoff draw.
That was off the faceoff, and then he rolled around the net and he backdoored him. I know exactly what you're talking about.
We might have even talked post game and did one of these shows right after that, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it's like that's the teaching moments of, like, Joel Farabee's got 20 goals this year?
20 goal season.
That's the little things that you pick up on from a guy like G,
Yeah.
The one thing I was going to say, bro, you were talking about his point production. Name me a true sniper he ever had to play with. And I'm not putting anyone down because they've been all good players. Obviously, if you make it to the NHL, you're a good player.
Donald did he ever get to play with Donald?
He never played with Big Brash. But and I know it's not, you can't just go pick a sniper off a tree and put him in your lineup. But when you have an elite passer like Claude, I mean, how long's he been here? And he's never really, you could say Yogs, but Yogs was 40 when he was here. Yogs had a good year. Scotty Hartnell had the best of his career. I think he had 37 goals that year. But I mean, like a guy like G hits and they snap it, and it's in the net. TK can really shoot the puck well, but he had an off year like we talked about. But anyway, I think if he ever had a true sniper, like when Lion A was available, I'm like, oh my God, could you imagine? And that's Claude's spot on that wall, but Claude could play anywhere. Yeah. Just having a player like that. But anyway, I think I don't think he's treated really fairly by most, but the guys that know hockey know what he brings to the table.
Yeah, I will say this, and I really respect this about Claude Giroux, to wrap up this conversation on him before we move on to something else, is that when he was asked about being the longest tenured captain in Flyers history, most games as the captain of this team, he was asked about that earlier in the year, and he said, well, it's no secret that my tenure here as a captain has not been successful. I mean, he was not the captain when they made it to a Stanley Cup final. Riley, you know this, when they made it to a Stanley Cup final and obviously lost to the Chicago Blackhawks, but he was the captain shortly thereafter. And in that time, they've only made it past the first round of the playoffs once, and that was the bubble situation. Yeah. So he knows it hasn't been a successful run here, and I think that hasn't fueled his fire to want to move on from the Flyers. It's only fueled his fire to want to win here in Philadelphia. And I don't know if we've said this yet. Maybe I'm the only one who hasn't said it. Shove it up everyone's ass. So there you go.
Now, there you go.
There you go. We've talked a lot about Carter Hart. We talked a lot about this defense. One thing that was very different from last year to this year was Travis Konecny. And Nasty, you talked about it a little bit already. Just to expand on it a little bit, I was expecting a lot from TK this year. Riley, I don't know about you. Nasty, I don't know about you. Brodes, that was a guy I thought was not necessarily going to be a sniper, but certainly the guy you were going to rely on the most offensively speaking. And he left a lot to be desired this year, including being benched for a couple of games by Alain Vigneault. What confidence level do you guys have, Riley, that TK can bounce back next year?
Well, he's a guy that thrives when he's playing with, when he's full of piss and vinegar. Like, to me, it's like he is going when he is chirping. He's underneath the skin. He's skating. He's just like that water bug. I don't know. I see it sometimes. It shows flashes of it, but for whatever reason, it wasn't very consistent this year, and I don't know how you fix that. I mean, obviously you got to regroup at the end of the season here and reflect on your season and say, well, be honest with yourself. Where can I get better? But to me, obviously he's a skill guy, but to me his skill is magnified when he's playing that really gritty game, and he showed flashes of it, like I said, but to me it wasn't consistent enough. And then this in this league, you have to be consistent to be a high level performer. So he's gonna find a way to be more consistent, whatever that means.
Yeah, I'm with you. Nasty, you were the first to mention his name. When it comes to what you're looking forward from TK maybe next year, are you expecting a bounce back type of year from him?
I do, because like Riley said, though, I don't know where that piss and vinegar went, because that's when he is really good. I mean, I'm telling you, this guy draws penalties in the past. This year he didn't do it as much, but he's always out of the side of his mouth saying something that's hilarious, because he's the smallest guy out there, and he's not afraid. You guys see him. He goes into the corners. He doesn't care who's coming. He plays bigger than he is, but this year, a lot of guys, we can't put our finger on it. But what was it like? And we're talking about a lot of guys, not just TK, but in talking with him, I don't know what happened, but he kind of lost that fire. I shouldn't say lost it, but you didn't see it. You didn't see it as much. And he was a guy I used to say to Scott Hartnell all the time. When Hartsey was engaged, Riley could tell you when he was playing with an edge, like he scored every time. Every game he was out there banging, not necessarily fighting, but just banging and under people's skins. He had his best games, and TK's the exact same way. I know they're not the same in height and weight and everything, but I don't know where it was. I don't know. Maybe there's things going on we don't know about, but I expect him to bounce back because he's got a lot of pride, and he knows that he had an off year.
Well, bro, you know people with piss and vinegar. Where do they store it?
Do I? No. The one thing I'll say is, like, and look, I don't want to question anyone's work ethic in the offseason and all, but I just wonder, like, because he was so damn good last year. Is it possible that he saw the success? He had 61 points in 66 games. Is it possible he was like, I'm good. Like, I'm good. I can just go out there the next year and it's going to happen again. And maybe you let your guard down because it's like, I had so much success last year. We're going to run it back. And maybe you don't you don't hit the weights as hard, or you don't have that same like passion in the weight room because, I just had 61 points in 66 games. Maybe there's something to it. I don't know. Look, I was lazy as hell. I wasn't hand cleaning. I was skipping those reps. So I did that plenty of time. I'm just saying. Is it possible that you realize, like, I've had success, I'm just going to step back on the ice and we're going to do it again? And it's not that easy because teams adjust. But he did have a bad postseason, so you would think that would snowball into, like, I got to be better. And, I'm not saying he did or didn't. I'm just throwing things at the wall to see what sticks because we don't know what the hell happened this year.
That's true.
Got you there. All right. I feel as if all of us have been brutally honest with this Flyers team. I don't think we've sugarcoated anything. We have certainly talked about piss and vinegar and people wanted to basically extend the middle finger to doubters. Let's talk about something that we might be looking forward to for next year. What is a positive? All right. Try to sift through all the garbage that we unfortunately watched over this season. What is a positive you can take out of this year? Is it something as recent as Cam York? Is it Joel Farabee with a 20-goal season in the shortened year? What is a positive you could take away from this season? Brodes, I'll start with you on this one. What's a positive you're looking at from this past disappointing Flyers season?
Well, I already did mention his name. I think Joel Farabee is the positive. I think he took a really big step, and there are some good storylines. Cam York, even though I wanted Cole Caulfield, I think both are going to be phenomenal players. I'm watching Cole Caulfield score overtime winners for Montreal, and I'm like, well, we talk about not having that, that sniper, that offensive weapon, but to play the other side, you have no defense. Cam York can maybe slide in there too. So they're both going to be good players in my eyes. But yeah, there's some good storylines with some other guys. It's got to be Joel Farabee though.
Farabee's the guy, 20-goal season. When he got the 19 tonight, I was like, oh, that's great. Oh, that'd be so great if he got one more. And he did.
Yeah,
so there you go. Nasty, how about you, man? Something that's positive you're looking forward to for next year.
I agree with Brodes totally. You can't overlook what Joel did in a shortened season. I mean, 20 goals. He's a kid, Obviously, it's his second season, but that's a big step. Team that's struggling, and he shows up every night too. There's a guy and he's just a smart player. Cam York is something we talked about, and I really like Allison, man. I love his energy. I feel like when he gets like next year, hopefully I would think he would start with the team. I just love what he brings. He's kind of a shit disturber, but he's got skill as well. If he could stay healthy, knock wood for the kid. He's been hurt for 4 years in college, but you have to look at Farabee as the biggest, bright spot, I would say.
All right, easiest one right there, Riley.
That's it. Yeah, I'm not going to drag it out. Joel Farabee for sure.
Joel Farabee. All right, I'm going to give you one different. All right, because I don't know what it is. I just feel like everybody wants to jump on Carter Hart simply because so many people, myself included, already more or less anointed him the next one here in Philadelphia to be that great goaltender, to be that guy that we've been waiting such a long time for. The thing that I'm really looking forward to about next year, Joel Farabee is the running away guy. I a couple of minutes, or really 40 minutes total that you saw Cam York this year. I liked what I saw, but it's 40 minutes.
Right.
The thing I'm looking forward to most for next year is Carter Hart. That's the thing I will take away and say, this was a year where he was trying to get his bearings. It didn't work, but I am still very confident he will jump back to be that goalie that we thought we were waiting for, and he'll fulfill that prophecy that we thought we were getting fulfilled going into last year, and now going into this year we thought we were getting. I think we are going to get that again next year. And I think he will be that guy that will be good enough after a regrouping year and after a young goaltender had to go through all the craziness that was this season. I think he will regroup, bounce back to next year to the point that we were expecting him to be at the end of bubble play last year. So that's going to be my positive. I'm going to look forward to what I see from Carter Hart, because I know a lot of people were sitting there waiting with they couldn't wait to compare him to Carson Wentz. Like, they couldn't wait to compare him to other failed athletes that we awarded the city to, the key to the city to right out of the gate.
This city?
This city.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. It's crazy, but a lot of people already just wanted to jump all over him. I'm not doing that yet. I almost want this city to not, we'll never give a pass for anything in this city, so I'm certainly not saying that. But I think this city does need to have a wait-and-see approach when it comes to Carter Hart, because he is that young, and it's the first time that we've seen him struggle, and everything else around him was bad as well. So I'm looking forward, number one, next year to seeing what Carter Hart can do between the pipes for the Flyers.
They got to sign him, too. His deal's
That's right.
up. So,
That's right.
I mean, I know he's not going to go anywhere else. They're going to sign him, but still, it'd be interesting to see what he gets. Well, you never should never say never, right?
Yeah. Hey, Nasty, when you guys went to dinner, who paid? No, just kidding. Don't answer that.
He cooked. He cooked.
He cooked.
He cooked.
He's definitely the kind of kid that would cook. You know what I mean? He's a different type of cat. Yeah,
they can't really go out.
COVID protocols.
Yeah, they're kind of stuck.
Right.
So
he's so particular in the things he does. He probably made this meal that's got 0 carbs. I'm eating ice cream.
That's this guy. You're confusing Carter with this guy below you.
No King Salmon over there.
No, I know Riley's like that too. But to me, he seems
I'm also
like
not a high-end goaltender in the NHL.
Good point.
All right, fellas. I think we didn't play necessarily released to the Kraken. However, I think it was pretty unanimous that if we're saying one guy is going to be, if we're expecting one guy not to be here going into next year, would it be Jake Voracek or would it be JVR?
It would probably be Voracek. Something tells me that I'm basing this off of some of the reports that I've been searching. When you look at the mock things for who players are going to be selected, don't rule out Shane Goss's. All I'm saying is that name keeps flying out there. So it's possible that Ghost is the one that gets picked, and you still have JVR and Voracek, because those contracts are pretty damn hefty. So, but they also need to eat caps somewhere. So you got to play that game. To me, it's hey, what prospect, with, of course, restrict some of them away, but what prospect will it take for it to be Voracek kind of thing? That's how I would have.
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to say is, to get someone in here, you might have to get rid of one of these young kids. I mean, what else are they going to ask for?
What if it takes what if it takes Allison to get rid of Voracek? You have to bite the bullet.
Man, I'm glad I don't know. I mean, that's a great question though, because you've got forwards, I guess, more than you have D, the way it's looking in the system, I should say. Maybe you have to. I mean, that's, like you said, that's a hefty salary Jake carries, and I don't know. I'm a Jake fan.
I think you would. Brodes, to answer your question, I think you would. I think we would have to give up Allison as part of that deal, because it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt.
And if you lose that money with Voracek and sign a defenseman, it's not only did you just get rid of Wade Allison, but in theory, you get rid of Voracek, you move Wade Allison, you get the money, you sign a defenseman. It's what do you do with that afterwards to then make it a different package, more so than just this is what we lost?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
We'll see.
All right. I want to get final thoughts from everybody, but before we get that, what is a bold prediction? Can we go here? Can we go to a bold prediction for next year of this Flyers team? Anyone want to jump on this topic?
I will. The trend is they'll make the playoffs. How far they go, I don't know, because it's been every other year for a decade now. So I say they make the playoffs.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say playoffs.
Riley, are you in? Are you in for the playoffs?
It's a bold statement, but yeah, I'd like to think so. Yeah.
All right. Can I get a bold prediction of Eastern Conference Finals?
Ooh.
After, that's how you know we're in a bad spot here, fellas.
We can't do it now. We got to see what happens.
All right. I'm gonna fanboy this one for you, and I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do it. Ready? My souvenir Flyers cup.
Oh,
Yeah. During quarantine, when we couldn't go to games and stuff, I drank from this to make me feel at home.
Do you know how many Flyers playoff T-shirts that are extra, extra, extra larges I have in my bedroom drawer of like to go to sleep in? 40,000 of those. That's my equivalent to your souvenir cup.
Yeah.
You know,
I only have one of those shirts. I only saved one of them. It's the Lou Nolan, who's my hero.
Oh, okay.
Lou Nolan, Stay Classy, Philadelphia.
I got that.
Yeah,
I got
That's a good one. I liked Lavi, the Jam T-shirt.
Yep.
That was my favorite one. The
Yep.
Jam. I forget
I got 'em
exactly
all.
what it said, but I love that one.
You gotta play with some zip, some jam, some pop,
Yep,
and some
some
other
jam.
three-letter word that means
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah, there you go. Fuck,
right.
Farzi's figured it all out now, man.
Oh yeah.
I got the
Figured it
lingo,
out.
bros.
Yeah.
I got the lingo. That's what I got. Before you know, I'm going to be saying a boot and stuff like that.
I say it all the
But-
time.
Hey, bro, you missed him. We were on with Farzy the one day, and he had his Nike gloves on, his skates with the ICM blade. I think they were hatches. They looked like they were size 12s. I'm not sure where they came from, but
And you know what? That wasn't even when it was Nike Bauer. That was like traditionally like Nike. Yeah, that's Nike. That's not Nike Bauer.
no,
That's
that was
straight
Nike.
up Nike. Yeah.
And they look brand new. I'm like, dude, I need those gloves, man. I want to rock those in my men's league. Those things are sick.
Yeah, those are, I would say, 1996, I would say.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
they're
about right.
game used, as in like one game, and then it was over for me. All right, so that was our bold predictions. What was I going to say? Oh, final thought. Who wants to take it first? Final thought for this season. If you had to wrap it up with one final thought, one final sentence or two, how would you do it?
Frustrating and pissed off. There you go. There's two words. Frustrating and pissed off.
There you go. Man,
There you
there you go.
There's
Yeah,
mine.
I like it. Riley.
Yeah, just overall disappointment. You know, I just thought they were going to be a lot more competitive, and now we're just gonna look towards next year and see what they do.
Not only that,
you know?
the Penguins are in first place.
Yeah, I know,
God,
right? Yeah, exactly.
Ron Hextall goes to town. Berkey goes to town. And now here they are. They're going to go win another cup.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
And Kartsy rolls in, scores
Yeah,
4 the
Kartsy
other
roll,
night.
yeah,
Not a
yeah.
big deal, right? Thanks for coming, Jeff.
Oh, God.
It's crazy. But yeah,
Nasty, what do you got?
disappointing. And I really did not expect the year to go that way. I feel bad for the boys and everybody. It's disappointing.
I'll go with another D, and that's deflating. I was I was so geeked up. And Riley, I've told you this before. If there is one sport in Philadelphia that I'm still very much like probably most likely to go fanboy mode on, it's still the Flyers. Like I haven't been jaded by them. But like it was just so deflating. I was so hyped up after last year and after the bubble and how Carter Hart played and how Travis Konecny played and the way Sean Couturier played and all that. Like, and Kevin Hayes, oh my God, an offensive force last year. This year was just something I did not see coming at all. And I know people will talk about COVID hitting the NHL, and it certainly hit the Flyers. They had to pause their season, as many other teams did. But even with that, a lot of teams had to deal with it. And the Flyers seemed to handle it the worst. And that's why I will look back on this season, this 25, 23, and 8 shortened NHL season for the Flyers. And the number one thing that will jump to my mind is how deflating it was. Hopefully, we can pump some air back in the tires and get things going again next year. And hopefully that starts with Carter Hart. Hopefully that starts with Travis Konecny, Sean Couturier, Kevin Hayes, and the captain himself, Claude Giroux. And also it starts upstairs with Chuck Fletcher and Elaine Vigneault making decisions to make this team better by next year. So this time around, we're not talking about a post-mortem. We're only talking about postseason hockey. And, and if I'm not mistaken, NHL on ESPN comes back next year, does it not?
Ray Ferraro?
does.
Are you
yeah.
kidding me?
Yeah, Boosh.
Ray Ferraro, Boosh. You
Yeah.
got a good crew there,
Good
man.
Yeah, they
combo.
do.
I saw
They-
it.
They got to get Gary Thorne in for a couple, don't they? I loved him calling the games, man.
Gary
back in the
Thorne,
day.
Billy Clement. That
Yep.
was my show, man. Wednesday night
Yep.
hockey on NHL on ESPN. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him, you love him. From Nasty Knuckles podcast, web show. Make sure you follow him all the time. Obviously, you got Nasty, you got Knuckles, it's Derek Settlemyre, and then you also have, of course, Riley Cote. Sports Talk with Brodes, Coffee with Brodes, Brodes Media, all things Brodes all the time.
Love
Hunter
it.
Brody right there. My name is Marc Farzetta from the Farzy Show. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you enjoyed this. We love talking hockey. We loved kicking around, and we loved snapping the biscuits if you will. Have a great night. Hopefully we talk to you about some better hockey next season, everybody. But make sure you guys subscribe to all the YouTube pages, of course, with Brodes and also Nasty Knuckles as well. Have a great evening, everybody. And, well, at least I'll see you next season for some more Flyers post-game reaction.
Thanks, Farzy. You're the man.
Thanks, Farzy. Thanks, guys.
Blast talking hockey with you guys. Everyone, have a wonderful evening.